Hey there, we're Shannon and Jerry Arner, your hosts of the Arner Adventures podcast.
We're a minimalist couple driven by intentional living and adventure.
Burned out from the 24/7 grind of running our business, we traded the hustle and the bustle for something more meaningful.
We parted ways with most of our belongings and moved to the coast.
Listen along as we chat about life's challenges, share inspiring stories of those who have taken big leaps to live a life outside of the norm,
and help you live with more intention and less physical and mental clutter.
Each episode is a step toward doing and being just a little bit better for ourselves and the world around us.
Life's an adventure after all. Join us for the ride.
It's the Arner Adventures podcast.
Hello everyone, I'm Shannon.
I'm Jerry.
We are back for episode 160 of the Arner Adventures podcast. Well, we are almost through the first month of 2025, if you can believe that. Can you believe it?
Hard to believe.
And if you are someone who is taking part of our Declutter 365, congrats on how far you've gotten so far, on all of your accomplishments. You're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, and it's just a task a day, totally manageable. If you want to join our Declutter 365, that's where you declutter your life in a year, one task at a time. Come on over to arneradventures.com to our Mindful Wear shop, and you can join for just $3.65.
We repeat, that is $3.65. I mean, we want you to have some skin in the game, but it's not a lot of skin. So I don't even really like to say skin in the game. Is there another way of saying it?
I'm not sure what an alternative.
Maybe we like to you to have a vested interest in your challenges, in your accomplishments. So $3.65 is really not that big of a deal. And it's not too late to join. You can join anytime. Just start on the day that you receive it. It's a calendar for the whole year, a task a day, like we said. And then you just move forward until you've gone through the whole year.
So, yes, moving on to today's episode, we are back with a guest. It's been a little while. We thought this would be a great topic and a great guest to tackle it. We're talking about relationships.
And what better for a couple hosting a podcast to have somebody on about relationships?
That's right, yeah.
We have Ken Blackman, a relationship mindset coach, and we talk about communication, sex, jealousy, all the things you want to know about. So stick around because you are going to enjoy this conversation.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by all the stuff piling up in your life? We've got something just for you. It's the Arner Adventures Declutter 365.
Declutter 365 is our easy-to-follow guide designed to help you clear out the clutter from every corner of your life. Whether it's the pile of stuff in your home, the endless digital files on your devices, or even the mental load that keeps you up at night, we've got you covered.
Every day, you tackle a simple task that helps you chip away at the clutter. And the best part? You can start anytime. There's no need to wait for the new year or a Monday. You can dive in whenever you're ready.
Over the span of a year, we'll tackle physical, mental, and digital clutter. Imagine having a more organized home, a cleaner inbox, and a calmer mind, all without feeling overwhelmed. It's all about taking small, manageable steps that add to big changes.
Join us on this journey to a simpler, more mindful life. Head over to arneradventures.com/shop.
Let's make space for what truly matters. And now, let's get back to the show. Well, today we're thrilled to have Ken Blackman joining us. Ken is a former Apple engineer turned relationship mindset coach and sex and intimacy educator. For over 25 years, he's been helping couples co-create thriving, fulfilling partnerships, and as he puts it, a gourmet love life. Ken's work has been featured in outlets like Business Insider, Playboy, and Cosmopolitan, and he's a regular contributor to the Good Men Project, Better Humans, and more. He's known for his practical, no-nonsense approach to topics like intimacy, jealousy, emotional dynamics, and breaking outdated models of relationships. Ken, we are so excited to have you here today and dive into some fascinating topics and get your insights on what truly makes relationships work. So welcome to the podcast.
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
We like to paint a picture to our audience of where our guests are coming to us from. So will you tell us where you are?
Yeah, so I'm in Chicago with my wife and our lovely dog, and we're near the lake. And even in the winter when it's freezing and snowing, we still take a walk on the beach almost every day.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I was going to say, I'm guessing you have snow right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
We live
Yeah.
on the coast, and even in the winter, we like to walk on the beach too. We
Yeah,
just,
we do.
even if it's freezing, we love it. It's so
Hmm.
healing, we feel like.
Yep.
Yeah. In fact, the lake is frozen couple hundred yards out at this point.
Oh, oh yeah. I've never even been around that, like frozen water to that extent.
Right.
Have you?
Which lake is that?
Lake Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. Yeah.
Have you
Um,
have you been there?
I've been on Lake Michigan once, but from Detroit. Well, not Detroit, but it's actually on the other side from where Detroit is. My dad and I went up there once,
Hmm.
and yeah, I've been on Lake Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we started in your introduction that you went from Apple engineer to relationship coach. So what inspired that shift? I mean, did you have a
Yeah.
background in couples already? Was there an interest there? Kind of what paint us a picture of how that worked out?
Yeah, yeah. So the significance of me being a software engineer is that I was terrible at relationships. I was awful with women. I was awful with the opposite sex. I was nerdy, geeky. I had no like I was codependent. I was misogynistic. I put women on a pedestal, but I also turned them into a caricature, like all the way any way that I was bad in bed, like any way that you can be bad with women, I was bad with women. So I needed to learn. So I had coaches who helped me. There were, like back then there was this thing called pickup. I did not want to go in that direction. Like that felt wrong and didn't vibe with me. But I learned about, I studied relationships. I read the books. I worked with some fantastic coaches. I actually took sex classes. I lived in a sex commune for a while. I
Wow.
Hmm.
did a lot of stuff and started to learn how to really. For me, it was really about how to be emotionally close to another human being. Like first I had to see women as a human being, which I didn't exactly do. Like I actually had to learn how to connect with another human being, and
Uh,
this was so transformative for me that I was like, oh, this is the work that I want to do. So
Hmm.
I studied with people who were teaching courses and just started. Then I started helping to teach courses or teaching courses and working with couples, and it just became something. I just transitioned into it, and I've been doing it full time for 25 years, mostly from referrals. So
that
Huh.
isn't well.
Wow.
I would assume it's because it is so. I mean, you're working with relationships, but I would imagine because it's so intimate and relationship driven of who you're working with, that it would be referrals would be your number one
yeah.
way of getting clients. I have to ask you, when you told people in your life, family, friends, coworkers, I'm going to leave being an engineer and I'm going to
Yeah.
be a relationship mindset coach, what were people's thoughts?
Let's just say there was a little bit of skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like a lot of my like my social life, if you could call it that. Like I had friends, I had people that I hung out with, and I was going in a different direction. And so it was like it was a major life change.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't the first time I'd made a major life change where everything changed, because when I was a teen and in my early 20s, I was a musician. I was a working musician. And so I had that was my community, And
Sure.
so then I got this job at Apple, and everything about my life had already changed once.
Mm-hmm.
So this was not even the first time that I just kind of like everything in my life changed. I was spending time with new people. I was living in a new place. I was starting to build a new career, and so it was a big change.
We know all about
Hmm.
that.
Oh
We
yeah, we
we
do.
we we sold everything we had and moved to the coast and lived small, minimalist life. And yeah, people have certain thoughts about it that,
Yeah.
Yes.
but and it's
Yeah.
very different. And our lives are very different, but for the better, as I'm sure that you could say as well.
Yeah, and there's a certain level of trust. Like you're listening to your gut, you're listening to what your intuition is telling you, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
actually have to believe it in spite of what people are saying, in spite of what maybe the concrete evidence is saying, is no, this is what's calling me, and I'm going to trust it. And those have always been for me the best decisions, where it's like, this is scary. It doesn't look right on paper, but I feel the pull, like undeniable pull to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Those have
Mm-hmm.
always been my best life decisions.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think we can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you talk about, like, I guess what my question is, how you'll hear different couples say, well, being in a good relationship, a healthy marriage or whatever is a lot of work. And so what makes some relationships feel like work? I'm using my finger quotes for those who can't see it, while others just seem to flow effortlessly. And I guess my question is that true? Are there relationships that just flow effortlessly and don't need work?
As I'm listening to you talk, I'm realizing there's actually three categories. There's relationships where there doesn't seem to be any heart strong issues are coming up, right? Like it's easy going, you know, not much is happening. It's just like, free and easy. There, my experience in working with people is usually there's not much passion in those relationships. Easy, it's just very easy going,
Mm.
right? Then there's relationships that just feel like a slog, like you have to really work at it. And then there's relationships where you're doing the same things as someone who says that they're working hard, but it doesn't feel like work. So, for example, I use this analogy, like if you're a rock climber, you're working, and it's a struggle. You may get bruised here and there, but at the end of the day, you look back and you say, I loved every minute of it.
Mm.
So, really, what I'm talking about here is where you're doing things that are challenging, or you're having conversations that are uncomfortable, or you're like trying to get to a next place of where you're both happy with what you have, and the next level of fulfillment, or the next level of intimacy, and you're doing the things, but you're enjoying the process. And so
Hmm.
it's I you can talk about intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So if I go to a job, I'm going there to get paid. So, I it's not I don't I might not enjoy the work, but I'm doing it for salary. The salary is good, the payoff is great, but it's work. That is the definition of work, right?
Right.
Then there's
Hmm.
the things that you do that you love doing, right? So, like I love doing relationship. I love the doing of it. I love the process of it. And so, everything about it is like if I was a skateboarder and I'm working on a difficult move or something like that, like it's work, but I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it. And so there's this uncomfortable truth that people have to face, which is a lot of people like the benefits of the relationship, but they don't necessarily like the process of it. So for
Mm.
like if that's where you're at, like I'm in it to get my needs met, that's a key phrase that people use. Um,
Mm.
when people say, I'm the purpose of relationships is to get your needs met. If that's your orientation, it's going to feel like work, because it
Mm.
is. You're doing things to get a result, right? And
Mhm.
it's the result that's the motivator.
Mhm.
Um, but it's possible to approach relationships in a way that is like, oh no, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And then all those things don't feel like work. Like all of this came up because my wife and I were talking. We were saying we do all the things that other people talk about when they say it's relationships are hard work, but it doesn't feel like hard work. So I had to really think, what is it? And it's because we enjoy the process. It's like
Yeah.
relationship is my jam. It's my vibe. It's my passion. It's
Hmm.
like it's also my life's work, you
Mhm.
know. But there's a mindset shift there where it's like, are you there to get your needs met, or do you love the doing of the relationship. And so
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
that's
That
what makes
makes
that switch.
yeah.
that makes
That
sense.
makes sense. Yeah.
Total sense.
Uh-huh.
So what do you mean? I think I read that you said that I don't know if that's the goal but you said that couples don't need to compromise in relationships. And I think we're trained to think, no, you always have to compromise. And so can you explain how that works?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So in life, um, there's like there's this approach where you envision the thing you want, and there's it can either be the woo version of it where you're manifesting, you're envisioning and you're doing affirmations and you're picturing it in your mind every day until it happens, or the
Mhm.
very concrete where it's like, I want this job, I want this, I want to here's the steps that I need to do, and but the idea is you picture it and then you do whatever you need to get to that thing. And I think I've I'm starting to think that relationships, it's it's hard to approach relationships that way because there's another human being involved, and it's the most intimate, um like deeply meaningful, deeply personal thing. And so there's a lot about relationship that you can't pre-design in your head and then look for somebody to plug into your vision. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's what people do is they say, "Oh, I want someone who's got all these qualities. This is how I picture it. It's going to be amazing. We're gonna, like this is what the wedding is going to look like, and this is how we're going to have babies, and blah 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 blah." Then you find someone, and boom, you have this moment of connection. You have this moment of spark of like two beings, luminous beings, having this moment of connection. And then you're like, okay, now I have to see if their puzzle piece fits into my puzzle piece. Like, does it, all the ways that they don't fit my vision, all the ways that they do fit my vision, and like, okay, you're good enough, like you're close enough. I don't like the ways that you don't like match my vision. I like you enough. So there's always this comparison, okay,
Mhm.
if you take that approach.
Mhm.
I've coached couples who had the ideal checklist, right? Everything matched, and they weren't happy. And I found it very, very hard to coach them. Like, I don't know, like, what's missing here is you guys don't actually have connection.
Ah,
All the things, all the check boxes are there, but I don't like now. It's like, why you're like, why aren't I happy? Because you don't really have connection.
right.
And
Mhm.
then I've coached couples who they're passionate about each other. There's all these like problems, like they don't agree about this, they're fighting about that, they disagree about like their different religions. One of them wants to have babies, the other one doesn't. They want to live in different places, they have different styles, all these superficial ways that they don't match, but they've got the spark, they've got the connection, like they've
Mhm.
got that thing that I can work with. Like
Sure.
those kinds
Yeah.
of issues, we can actually craft a relationship built on who you are that's going to work well.
Uh-huh.
And so the best relationships aren't the ones that are your perfect vision. The best relationships are surprising. It's like, oh, I didn't even know this was possible. Like, I didn't even know, like, this person isn't quite what I had in mind. It's better. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
the best relationships are mind blowing. They're not like, oh, I created it in my mind beforehand and then
Mhm.
found someone who fits like a puzzle piece into my vision. So much of it has to be co-created. It has to be like you find the person, then you create the relationship based on who you are. You put your two heads together and you say, what do we want to create? Like the two of us should be able to come up with something that's better than either one of us, like our presuppositions or our preconceived ideas. No, you get together and you create something that's better than what either of you could
Mhm.
have
Uh-huh.
created on your own. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Because
Yeah.
you've
that
got
makes
both
sense.
people. Okay, so compromise. Compromise, coming back to your question,
Uh,
Compromise happens when your something you came up with on your own without working it out with your partner comes into conflict with the relationship and your partner. So you're lone rangering basically
Right.
inside this relationship. And now I have my thing that I said I wanted, um, and you're not going to give it to me, or it conflicts with what you know. So I have to compromise in order for this relation. No, whenever I hear the word compromise, what comes to mind is there's an opportunity for you guys to like create something that's better than what either of you have come up with so far. We
Mm.
actually have to put our heads together and start designing something that you guys haven't thought of that's better than either of you came up with.
Okay. No, no, no.
Yeah.
I understand that
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I'm
I like
sitting
that.
you me too. I'm sitting
Yeah.
here thinking about you were talking about the three types of relationships, and um, it's almost like the people who are have that spark and have passion in their relationship. It automatically takes me to some people say that jealousy is, oh, they're just passionate about their relationship. So let's talk about jealousy, because it's
Okay, let's talk about
a
Chelsea.
big topic, I think, for relationships. Where do you think it comes from? Does it come from the person having insecurity, or is there, do you find in your experience there's a reason? Like, is it the other person? I don't want to say that we're blaming anyone, but where would you say that comes from?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say, okay, we're not talking about somebody cheating. We're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about someone lying. We're not
Right.
talking about someone overtly breaking an agreement or,
Mm-hmm.
or hiding or doing anything. We're not talking about any of that. What we're talking about is one person's doing like having an interaction and the other has jealousy spark up. And then they have to talk about like, was it wrong? Like, I think you were wrong, like the person who was just doing what they were doing is like, you need to get over yourself. And the
Mm-hmm.
person who's feeling the jealousy is thinking, you need to stop that behavior and never do it again. So there's
Mm-hmm.
this logjam, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to bring a little nuance because there's different flavors of jealousy. And if you know what the flavor is, then you can kind of figure out what needs to happen. So it could be that you're envious. And what that looks like is, first of all, you're pissed off. Um, you think you're being ripped off. Either you're jealous that your partner is having fun that they should be having with you, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
like they're having fun and you're not having fun, or they're having fun with someone else when you want them to be having that fun with you. Like there's some way that you're being ripped off here. You're being like, you're not happy, like you're getting gypped here. So that's envious jealousy. And what it points to is, where are you not happy in the relationship? Because if you're getting everything you want, like if you're completely fulfilled in this relationship, you're getting everything you want, your partner is like you're fully like savoring and enjoying, and everything about the relationship leaves you feeling fulfilled. You have a lot more leeway and comfort with your partner doing something with someone else. You don't get that tight,
Mm.
stingy, you know,
Yeah.
like envious. Okay, so that's envious jealousy.
Uh-huh.
Then there's insecure jealousy. Insecure jealousy is when you're fearful, you're anxious, you have fear of loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're afraid your partner is going to leave you. Like you're projecting. Like so often, what happens here is you see this other person, you think they're amazing, the third party, right? You see
Mm-hmm.
this third party. You feel insecure, you feel your self-worth, like that person is amazing compared to me. Then you see your partner interacting with them and you project onto your partner that your partner also thinks they're amazing and will likes them 10 times better
Uh-huh.
than
Mm-hmm.
they like you, because you like that person 10 times better than you like yourself.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here, like, we're talking about your self-worth and your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. And there's some work that you need to do to like yourself and love yourself, and to be like, you know what, I'm the shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm the bomb. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about this. Like, you can get to a place where you're not threatened by your partner being with other people, because what you got at home
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
so
Yeah.
was going to
much
say
better
that.
than,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so that's the second. And then
Interesting.
the third type of jealousy is possessiveness. And this is the hardest to understand. And so the feeling of this is like sadness or sorrow or loss or heartbreak. Okay.
Hmm.
That's the emotional flavor that tells you that maybe you're in this one.
Mm.
And I give this example of, like, let's say you own a Maserati. You have this car. It's your prized possession, and you're going to loan your Maserati to your partner, and they get in the car, and all of a sudden you're scared of how they're going to drive this car. So you hop in you hop shotgun. They're driving. You're shouting orders. You're telling them what to do. You're like, no, put on the brakes. That there's some danger, like a half mile away, and you're scared, right? You're scared about how they're going to treat the Maserati, right?
Mm.
Uh-huh.
So, but now let's say it's not a Maserati. Let's say it's your heart. So you hand your heart over to someone, and then you're scared of how they're going to treat it, how they're going to drive this thing. And so you become controlling, trying to control so that so do you get the idea here?
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I do. I was thinking
Mhm.
as you were saying that, I was like, I don't even think it's in our relationship so much, but I can see, like, about other things that I feel a controlling sense a
Yeah.
lot. Like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. I'm thinking about the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if he's leashing them and getting them ready, I'm panicked that, is he going to leash them right? Are they
Yeah.
going to get out? Are they going to go on the walk? And they're going to, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's something I should
Yeah.
deal
Yeah.
more with. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
So,
completely can see the different flavors of
yes.
jealousy.
Yeah.
So there's one more thing I want to say about that last one before we go on, which
Yeah.
is there's a paradox. You want to own this person and control them,
Mm.
because secretly you want to be owned by them. You want them to be the keeper of your heart. So you
Mm.
want to be owned by them, and that terrifies you. And so that's why you become controlling. So
Mm.
this superficial
Interesting.
behavior of trying to own the other person is because you want to be owned by them, and you want them to do it right, and you're scared.
Uh-huh.
That's like
Huh.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
wow. No,
Huh.
that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I know we're limited in time, but I think that it would behoove us to talk about sex. So
Okay.
the idea of a sex life that gets better over time feels
Yeah.
almost revolutionary. So
Yeah.
what advice do you have for couples to achieve that?
Okay. So I think this is how it's supposed to be. Like, we have this idea that the relationship is at its best in the beginning, and then you're kind of fighting this inevitable downhill. And nowhere is this more true than in your love life. But think about this. I want to give this analogy. Let's say that as a couple, you cook dinner, you cook dinner and you have a meal together a couple nights a week, right? It's just a ritual that you have. And it's no big deal. It's just something you enjoy doing. So the first thing you have to figure out is, there's foods I like, there's foods I don't like. I have allergies, I have preferences.
Mm-hmm.
You also have foods that you like, you have foods you don't like, you have foods you can't eat. So the first thing we have to do is figure out how to prepare a meal that makes both of us fully happy, satisfied, and that we don't have to eat anything that we don't want to eat, metaphorically speaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's totally doable. You can totally figure this out, how to cook dinner and have both people get something that's delicious and get up from the table feeling good. Okay, same thing in sex.
Okay.
This is step one. So you figure that out, how to actually have both people get up from the bedroom, having been feeling gratified from the experience, and not having had to do anything that they didn't and that they don't like doing. Okay.
Sure.
So
Mhm.
that's the first step. So the meal goes on, weeks turn into months, turn into years, and you try different recipes and you figure out your flow in the kitchen. One
Uh-huh.
person really one person excels at cooking the steak and the other one is really good at roasting the asparagus. And then you try, oh, I want to try this sauce. I want to try these herbs. Oh, I got this new knife that's gonna revolute this new kitchen thing that's gonna revolute. You just try things and you're like,
Yeah.
it's not all you're doing is just like trying things the way you would try different cuisines. And
Uh-huh.
pretty soon after 5 years, those meals are going to be dialed in. They're so dialed into you and what you like and what you enjoy. It's going to be better than really what you can get in a restaurant, right? 10 years.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Like we've heard of
Makes
like
sense.
Yeah.
we have a grandma who cooks. Nobody can cook like grandma's home cooked meal. How did she do that? She just did it on a regular basis and
Uh-huh.
strove to make it her best. So this is a mindset, right? This is a mindset. Like without a lot of drama, without a lot of, you didn't have to learn any athleticism, you didn't have to do any of those things that they think people think they have to do, like you just
Uh-huh.
you're it's something you do on a regular basis that you look and see, well, what did you and you oh, I will say this, you have to talk a lot about what you're experiencing. You have to be able to
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
talk about it. What did you enjoy? Does this feel good? Are you having is this enjoyable? What does it feel like? What does this feel like? Like you have to do a lot of talking before, during, and after, the way you would if you were cooking a meal, so that you can really like strip away putting on a facade
Uh-huh.
and really be two people who are having this connected experience of sensual pleasure together, and because I think the best sex is connected sex. Do you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
Uh-huh.
But if you approach a meal that way, you're not going to ever get tired of eating dinner.
You're
Like
so right. Like
Yeah.
100% authentic in what it is that you want for your meal and
yeah,
talking about it because yeah, you're right. You can't assume that the other person is not going to roast the asparagus if you don't want asparagus that night. You can't assume
oh,
it. So
yeah,
you're so
yeah,
right. It's like
yeah,
tell the person you don't want roasted asparagus.
yeah,
So yeah, that makes sense. Over time,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you're
yeah.
saying
You
these
just
things that seem they should be so obvious, but
yeah.
Yeah.
they're not.
And when you approach this way, like it's like my wife and I have been together for 5 years, and our sex life this month is better than it was a few months ago. Do you know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and it's not work. It's not like a big deal. It's just that we have this approach where we approach it like we're learning how to cook good meals with together.
I love
Uh-huh.
that.
That's
Yeah.
neat.
I love
Yeah, I
that.
like it too.
Well, I feel like before we keep going, I have so many other things we have to talk about, but we'll have to have a part two.
Yeah.
But let's get to your fast five questions. So
Okay.
these are just this or that, another way to sort of get to know you a little bit. Number one is romantic dinner at home or night out on the town,
Oh, definitely romantic dinner at home.
especially now that we've talked about cooking a meal.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that would be us too.
Yeah.
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 Number two, communication or chemistry.
That one's much harder. I don't know that I could choose between the two.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do it without communication.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that you can do it without chemistry either, but if I had to choose, I'd choose communication, but they're both so important.
I was thinking
Right.
about this question when you were talking about the spark and people having that spark. I was like, oh, he's going to choose chemistry. He's going to choose chemistry.
No, 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 no.
Uh,
Everything comes down to communication. So
yeah, no, you're
I
right.
ultimately have to choose that one.
Okay, number three, spontaneity or routine?
Um,
If you
I would
had to
say
choose
I,
one.
I would say routine, probably, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Um, weekend getaway or staycation.
Oh, I love me some weekend getaways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do too.
All right. Number five, talk it out or give each other space.
Oh, you need both. You need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to do both.
Yeah.
I absolutely can't choose between those because
Yeah.
someone needs to be able to say, I'm so emotionally charged right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't have the conversation we need to have.
Mm-hmm.
And our conversation is going to go so much better if we give it some space and I have some breathing room. Then the conversation can happen. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And the question that we ask all of our guests, and we feel like it's super important to ask, is what does a life well lived mean to you?
oh, that's a good one. So I've been listening to a lot of near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
On YouTube, there's whole channels dedicated to near-death experiences.
Yeah.
So you go, you go through the tunnel of light, and you go, and you're surrounded by love, and you're just bathed in this loving warmth, and then you have your life review and all this stuff, and then a question that they ask you again and again and again is, what did you learn? And like, what did you learn on this trip? And so recently my idea of a life well lived is one where you learned and you grew and you became a different person than you were when you started.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the exciting thing about life is that, I mean, I say this all the time. Oh, you learn something new every day, but you really do.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most exciting parts about life is that you're always learning.
Yeah.
Always.
And you grow through experience, and you really have to take risks and chances to experience to grow,
Yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
Mhm.
Well, please tell our audience where they can connect with you, where they can find you, whether they're single and need some advice from you about having a great couple relationship, or if they're couples and they want to work with you. How do they do that?
Yeah, you can find me on kenblackman.com. I also have a blog, and I'll give you the link to that so you can put it in the notes, where
Great.
they can read a lot more of really the stuff that we talked about today. There's articles that cover all the stuff we talked about today and much, much more.
That is so great. We're totally going to link all that down in the show notes. And thank you. Again, we're going to have a part 2 because there's so many other things we wanted to talk about. But we really appreciate your time and for being with us.
Oh, it's been so much fun. Thank you for having me on, and I'd be happy to do it again.
Well, that was a great conversation, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. No, very informative.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah.
I think my biggest takeaway from this is that I have some more work to work on in therapy with my control issues. It was interesting to hear what Ken had to say about if you have control issues and what that means in a relationship. So, it's an ongoing thing for me, just like boundaries. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. There were some other things we wanted to talk to him about. We ran out of time. So we might look at having him on a second episode down the road if you're interested. And hey, if you are interested, why don't you send us over any other questions that are just burning your brain that you want to know about with relationships. Jared, what was your takeaway?
Yeah, well, hey, lots of aha moments there. It was it seems like everything he was saying was so obvious. He was pointing them out to us, but it was kind of nice to have that reinforcement. It was good therapy. Like when we're dealing with a therapist, you get some insights that I think every time where you go, why wasn't that readily apparent to me?
Yeah,
so there's a lot of those kind of things.
Yeah, good point. Well, like we said, we have all the information for Ken down in the show notes. And if you do have any other questions for a future episode, just contact us. All of that is in the show notes.
If this episode resonated with you, or if you know of someone who would benefit from what we talked about, please share it with a friend.
It's a great way of supporting the podcast, and we really appreciate it.
Another way of supporting the pod is by leaving us a 5-star review or rating on the platform you are listening to us on.
And go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That also supports us. You can always find us, the show notes, and sponsors who support the podcast at arneradventures.com.
And until next time, enjoy the journey you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Bye-bye.